Welcome to Dodgers Dawgs. As part of the Dodgers Daily Network, Casey Porter here. So glad that you decided to tune in. Another very, very, very frustrating loss. A loss that I know a lot of Dodgers fans today, as we talk here on Dodgers Dawgs as part of the Dodgers Daily Network, are going to think that was avoidable. So, hey, what do you think? Tanner Scott gets brought in last night. We already have a comment from Craig Osterberg. When you go to the same well for a drink and there's no water, you have to go to a different well. Okay, so let's dive in right there and let's get to it. I've got about 30 minutes here, so get on the horn, get on the social media, get everybody over to Dodgers Dawgs as part of the Dodgers Daily Network, and let's get a great conversation about Dodgers baseball going here this morning. So let me dive into this. I am not going to, deny any of the fact that Tanner Scott has struggled, that hey, it is going to the well again, a well that has come up dry time after time again. Matter of fact, if you have followed this show, you would know that my narrative on that has been Dave is going to a guy that he's not using what he's seeing with his own eyes. Instead, he is using a track record to continue to try to get somebody going based on what he hopes happens in the future. And when you do that as a manager and you don't use your own eyes and you're not making decisions based on what you're seeing, and instead you're doing it from a big picture perspective of what you think you need out of somebody to make your team the best version. Because I think we could all agree when the Dodgers signed Tanner Scott, they did not expect this to happen. And because of that, we were all excited about signing Tanner Scott. And because of that, I think it's fair to say that the best version of this team would have a Tanner Scott on it that is pitching well and not pitching the way he has, and instead pitching the way that he was last year when he was striking out Shohei Ohtani. But we have not gotten that. And so that kind of brings us to, if he's going to be on the roster, okay, and this goes back to a comment that was made yesterday, that when you go to the playoff roster, there just may need to be some guys that are left off the roster so Dave doesn't have the temptation to turn to them because of their major league track record, because he thinks, hey, we need this guy to get going to be the best version of themselves. And instead to force him to have to think, okay, well, yeah, this guy has a track record of being one of the better major league relievers in the game or whatever it may be, but yet he's not doing it right now. So you may have to take those decisions away and leave certain guys off the roster. Like Dave said in his postgame, which I love Dave's postgame. I thought he was very direct. I thought, he used that term that we use here of a fear of failure. There's a little bit of that going on. And just really, I thought he held the guys accountable, because what Dave is doing when he continues to put a guy like Tanner Scott out there, he's going to bat for that guy. And every time that guy does not come through and does something like last night, that is throwing that egg right back in Dave's face and making things very difficult for him, which is fine. That's the big boy pants you wear as a manager. You will continue to fight for your players and for your guys that you continue to believe in. But I think what you saw in Dave's reactions last night in his postgame is, how am I supposed to continue to believe in people? Hey, it's one thing to give support, right? Which is what Dave is doing and which is what he always does. It's one thing to give support, but it's another to have faith and trust in the trust tree whenever you're not seeing it on the field. So I thought it was job well done again last night in the press conference by Dave in terms of holding the decisions accountable in terms of the people that he made decisions about. So then that kind of brings you to the, okay, well, you bring in Tanner Scott again. He blows the lead last night. And so, I've said many different times, if you're going to continue to do that, if you're going to continue to use Blake Trinan, if you're going to continue to use Michael Kopech, that might work and it might not. And if it does not, because you are not using what you are seeing with your own eyes, you're not going with the hot hand. You're going instead with a mythical idea of, hey, we're going to get back to what they used to be or what they're capable of. Because of that, you are opening yourself up for criticism that not even somebody like me, who's been in the game for as long as I have been, not even somebody like me who wants to defend everything that Dave Roberts does, that loves Dave Roberts, that calls him a Hall of Fame manager, that loves the front office. Not even I can or are willing to defend. If you choose to put Tanner Scott out there, You are going out on that limb, and you are putting your neck out there. That's the courage it takes to be Dave Roberts and to make that decision, because he knows he's going out on that limb. Hey, if he watches this, the first thing that'll come in his mind is, well, yeah, no shit, Sherlock. That's exactly how that goes. No doubt I am putting my neck out on the line for that, and I will continue to do that for all the guys that I trust. And that's one thing that I do love about him. So, hey, go ahead and criticize that away. Other than where we draw the line is, hey, he's a dumbass or something like that, because obviously he's not. He's going to be a Hall of Fame manager, and he is a great manager. So we draw the line there. But in terms of that concept or this individual decision, criticize away. He has opened himself up for that. He deserves every bit he gets, and he knows that. He knows that. And that, to me, that goes just to show just how much I really do appreciate him, because him knowing how much criticism he's going to take if that decision does not work, he still is willing to put that courage on the line and do that because he believes in his players. And yes, no, and I should say no instead. No, it did not work. No, it has not worked. But because of that concept where he continues to put his support on the line for his guys, because he supports them the way he does, that situation works out way more times than it doesn't. So while this is the latest one and it stuck out, and like Craig said, it's going to the well over and over and over again, and nobody can defend that, I think it's fair also to say, and I think everybody would have to admit, that type of conviction and belief in your players is also what makes a great manager. And again, like I said, I think that's more of a overall by far a plus than it is a negative. Although if you want to make the narrative that Dave has his guys and he goes to the well, I'm not going to push back against that. But I'll say, hey, that philosophy has won him 2 World Series in the last 5 years. It's a philosophy that has put the Dodgers in first place in the NL West. The Dodgers still are set up to have a very good run in the playoffs and to possibly win the 3rd World Series in the last 6 years, 50% of the time, and to go back-to-back for the first time since in 25 years, and in first place in front of the Padres. So yes, is this one decision, the last one, the one we're very frustrated about and want to bitch and moan about, rightfully so, myself included? Absolutely. But again, when you look to the overall aspect of things, and I know what you're going to say is, screw the overall part of this. We have 5 games left, or how many games it is left. The lead is shrinking. There's no guarantee we're going to win the NL West. You are 100% correct with all of that, if that's the way you're thinking. The big picture needs to be out the window. I'm not going to disagree with that, but what I am going to say is, that gets me into the Tanner Scott spiel, okay? If you're going to have him on the roster, that goes back to, hey, maybe there are some guys you have to leave off the roster because, hey, everybody has strengths and weaknesses. I've gone over many of Dave's strengths. I think one of the weaknesses, we just said it, he has his guys. That takes you back to, if you don't want him to use these guys, you're going to have to leave him off the roster. I think that's a fair comment to make because, okay, if you're going to have Tanner Scott on the roster, you have to use him. If you're not going to use Tanner Scott, then just eliminate him off the roster, okay? It's as simple as that, because that's not going to happen. That's not a realistic situation. Here's what happened last night. Ben Rortvedt hits the home run. The Dodgers take a 4-0 lead, and if you listen to Dave talk, this is exactly how it was mapped out. It was mapped out to where Tanner Scott would not be the high leverage guy last night. So Dave Roberts did not map it out to make Tanner Scott the high leverage guy. He actually made Edgardo Henriquez, and as soon as the Dodgers took a 4-run lead, he actually made Jack Dreyer, who has been fantastic this year. He actually made Edgardo Henriquez, who has been fantastic this year. He actually made Alex Vesia, who has been fantastic this year, the high leverage guys. So the plan was, you take a 4-0 lead, you bring in your 3 most reliable relievers, okay? Maybe you could throw Anthony Bonda in that. But, or at least maybe, Edgardo Henriquez is reliable, I don't know, because of the experience. I think that could probably be debatable, but I don't think you can debate Jack Dreyer, Alex Vesia. So the plan is, okay, you go, so you get 6 from Shohei Ohtani. You go 7th inning with Jack Dreyer. You go 8th inning with Alex Vesia. You continue to have a 4-run lead. Those guys killed basically the entire high leverage part of that game because you get it to the 9th inning with a minimum of a 4-0 lead. That's the way the game was mapped out. It was certainly not mapped out for Tanner Scott to come into a 1-run game in the bottom of the 9th. So my defense of Dave on this situation is he actually did put the guys in the high leverage situations that had been the most reliable, and they just simply did not come through. Alex Vesia did, but Jack Dreyer did not. Hey, you guys know how much I love the Maytag. I love to talk about and brag about how reliable he is. Point blank, he's been great all year. He did not come through. Edgardo Henriquez gives up the home run. Now, all of a sudden, the map that you put together to make Tanner Scott kind of be that guy, because what you want to do with a guy like Tanner Scott, put him in some lower leverage situations, get him his confidence back, and kind of wean him back into the high leverage. That was planned perfectly. If Jack Dreyer goes out and strings a 0, Alex Vesia strings a 0, it's at least 4-0 by the time Tanner Scott enters that game. That is what the plan was from Dave Roberts. The plan was not to make Tanner Scott the high leverage pitcher last night. So from that perspective, he was trying to wean him back into a lower leverage situation. And because Jack Dreyer, Edgardo Henriquez did not come through, that plan just kind of went to shambles. So that brings you to the next question. If not Tanner Scott, which, hey, if you want to, like we've said, going back to that same well that has been dry, if not Tanner Scott, who? I mean, who else? Okay, it's easy to say, hey, you can't bring in Tanner Scott there. Hey, you can't do this. Hey, you can't do that. That's the easy part. So what is the solution there? Who else? Okay, is it Blake Trinan? Is it Will Klein? Is it Kirby Yates? Yes, we spent almost the entire show yesterday with pretty much in all agreement in the chat that Blake Trinan and Kirby Yates, neither one of them should be on the playoff roster. Neither one of them should be trusted in high leverage situations. So if it's not Tanner Scott, who? Okay, and so maybe you could say, I think probably the biggest pushback you could give there would be Anthony Bonda for the 8th, Alex Vesia for the 9th. I would not have any pushback to that. Anthony Bonda should have been available last night in terms of the amount of pitching that he had done as of late. And I would not have been in favor of Alex Vesia going 2 innings for the simple fact that, hey, you're probably going to disagree with this, but just from the big picture of things, you still do have the lead in the NL West. You still have your pitching set up very well. The last thing you can do right now with all the injuries you have, with all of the guys not performing, you cannot lose Alex Vesia, no matter what. You can afford to lose last night's game more than you can afford to lose Alex Vesia. Again, you might disagree with that. I will stand pat on that of all the guys you can't lose right now, it's Alex Vesia. So if your solution is to go Vesia for 2 innings, I'm going to push back on that. I will disagree with that. If you want to say Bonda 8th, Vesia 9th, I got no pushback for you there. But then I say that. The pushback I would have is the plan was for Tanner Scott to come in with a 4-run lead at minimum. And then if you score again, it's a 5 or 6-run lead. So that was the plan last night. It did not work. And because of that, I'm not sitting here trying to tell you not to criticize Dave for bringing in Tanner Scott as soon as he saw it was going to be more of a high leverage situation. Maybe that's whenever you pivot on your plan and you delay Alex Vesia to the 9th, you get Anthony Bonda up. But see, we're not privy to all those conversations. We're not privy to what Anthony Bonda was told before the game. We're not privy to what was available, what was not. So even from that type of pivot, it's very hard to criticize and say, hey, he should have done this or he should have done that because this result that, this result this. It's very difficult to come at that when we don't have all of those inside pieces of information to go off of. So I'm riding both sides of the fence. I'm very good at that, I know, okay, because I'm saying on one side, go ahead and criticize away because Dave knows every time he puts in Tanner Scott or Blake Trinan or Michael Kopech. He is opening himself up to a can of worms for the Dodgers fans to criticize him to no end, and rightfully so. But then on the other side of things, I'm also saying that I thought he mapped out last night to make Tanner Scott not a high leverage guy, which I agree with. And then if you're going to have Tanner Scott on the roster, you have to use him. So I think I can see both sides of that. I'm from as frustrated as you are, but I'm going to continue to say, what if last night was Shohei Ohtani for 6 and Emmett Sheehan for the last 4? Would you be happy with that? Or if it was, maybe a Tyler Glasnow for the last 4, or a Blake Snell for the last 4, or a Yoshinobu Yamamoto for the last 4? That's what the playoffs are going to look like. So at the very least, even if Emmett Sheehan, say, goes 3, you're then passing that baton to Alex Vesia for that last inning, and you're not even getting to a Jack Dreyer. You're not even considering a Tanner Scott or a Kirby Yates or anybody like that. So I'm going to ask you to continue to think 4D here. Think futuristically here, in the sense that think that would be one of your starters that aren't starting in a playoff type game, because you only have a 3-game series and you have 6 starters. So I personally think that would be somebody like Emmett Sheehan or a Tyler Glasnow knocking down those innings, and we would not even be having this conversation to begin with, right? So we mentioned how good the offense had been coming into last night. Last 26 games, 3rd highest batting average, 265, but only 14th highest in base on ball percentage. So what we saw last night, what felt like actually, I know it was a slow start, but whenever Ben Rortvedt hit that home run, it kind of felt like, okay, well, this is a good night for the Dodgers. This is an offensive night that the Dodgers are good enough with. The pitching has been fantastic. This is a formula for the Dodgers to win a game that they need to win in a closer fashion than maybe some of the games they could when they just go off and score 11 or 12 runs. So at least I got the feeling like, hey, this is a good night up to that point, right? But again, the Dodgers only walked 2 times last night. If you remember me mentioning on yesterday's show, the 2 things that this Dodgers team needs to do: the pitching needs to walk fewer people, which that happened last night with Shohei Ohtani, was just simply fantastic. 8 strikeouts and no walks. But then the offense needs to walk more, because the base on ball per 9 percentage for the offensive side, as good as the offense has been in the last month, they need to walk more, because then again, if the Dodgers walk more than 2 times last night, okay, instead of scoring 4 runs, instead of it being 4-0, it's probably 7 or 8-0. And now that game is completely out of hand, and the Diamondbacks, no matter what happens, do not make a comeback at that point. So what I would say to the offense is, it feels like it's playing good. It is playing good, other than the fact that they need to figure out how to draw walks at a higher rate than they have. And give Brandon Pfaadt credit. He was good. He made the Dodgers beat them. For the most part, the Dodgers did, but they didn't do it to the extent to where it just ended the game and made it to where the Diamondbacks could not make their way back into it. So that's kind of my spiel there, is got to walk a little bit more to make the crooked innings be a little bit more crooked and go on from that perspective. How about the incredibleness of Shohei Ohtani? So he hit 101 miles an hour last night, 8 strikeouts, no walks. He went 6 innings for the first time this year. I mean, there's nothing else that Shohei Ohtani can do. It is just absolutely gut-wrenching and, to be honest with you, disgusting to watch the bullpen. And I don't mean that as a knock towards like a Jack Dreyer or Ricardo Henriquez. I just mean as a fan, it makes you have that disgusted feel and that knot in your stomach to watch another just tremendous start get wasted again by a bullpen that was not able to hold on to a lead, because Shohei Ohtani hit 101 miles an hour. And here's the thing. He threw his fastball for a strike about 65% of the time. So when you're sitting 98 miles an hour, when you're touching 101, that becomes a centerpiece of a pitch, which means all of the opponents have to sit on that fastball and they have to time that fastball. And so then beyond that, then he had a cutter that was in the 94 range. Then he had a sweeper that was in the 90 range. Then he had a slider that was in the mid 80s. Then he had a curveball that was in the lower 80s. So you have the velo at the top with the high strike ratio, which meant that, hey, it's one thing if you throw 101, but if it's not in the strike zone enough, then hitters can sit on different pitches. So by throwing 64% strikes in zone with his fastball, the Diamondbacks had to sit fastball. They had to time the fastball. And then whenever you can layer then from 100 down to 95, down to 90, down to 85, then to 80, then you just become what Shohei Ohtani was last night, which is absolutely, completely, totally, and entirely dominant. I mean, it was an incredible performance. It was absolutely awesome. And it is absolutely too bad that the Dodgers wasted that outing last night. Standing ovation again for Ben Rortvedt. I think he's only hitting like 186. Okay, fine. But Ben Rortvedt's offensive role is anywhere from he needs to be involved in the winning baseball plays aspect of this offense at the bottom of the lineup. He needs to be anywhere from there to, okay, well, his offense is just a straight up bonus. And so last night, to me, Ben Rortvedt was in the category of, well, his offense was just kind of a bonus. You know, it added to the lead. It gave the Dodgers that 4-run lead. And then again, he shows the ability to call a great game with multiple pitchers. You know, Shohei Ohtani was throwing like 6 different pitches last night. So not only is it a guy that can zero in on like Blake Snell, who's more of a 2 to 3 pitch guy, or maybe a guy who has a dominant 2 or 3 pitches in his arsenal. Ben Rortvedt can take a 6-pitch arsenal and continue to call a good game, make it look clean, make it look seamless, and then again be a bonus on the offensive side of the ball. So although the overall numbers don't look great for Ben Rortvedt, he has been simply fantastic. So I think that's a decision the Dodgers are going to have to make. If it is a decision they get to make, I think it just goes to show that, you know, hey, this offense, yes, 4 runs, you had a 4-run lead, and that felt good at the time and this and that, but still 4 runs, the Dodgers need to score more than that. I mean, I'm not going to put this game on the offense. Don't get me wrong. This game is on the bullpen, but having said that, from a big picture perspective, this offense needs to score more than just 4 runs. And so to do that, what they need, they either need Will Smith to get back and they need him to hit. I like the Will Smith that we loved for the first 3 quarters of this season. They need Max Muncy to get back to hitting. He was 0 for 4 last night. They need Max Muncy he doesn't have to be as good as he was like in that 2-month stretch or however long it was where he was like the best hitter in baseball or one of. And we need Teo to lock back in. You know, Teo's only been about in the 180 range in the last 7 to 15 games, something like that. You know, it just kind of felt like about a week or so ago that Teo was locking back in because Teo kind of has that magical spell to him. He has that ointment for this team that it just seems like when Teo contributes offensively, when he comes up with big hits, that just seems like to be a big part of the winning formula to this team. And the reason why that is because that's adding length to the explosiveness of this offense. So right now, Max Muncy not hitting, Teo not hitting, Will Smith not in the lineup. Andy Pages has had good games here and there, okay, but it hasn't been like every single night lengthening it. And so it's an offense that has been good lately, but it's also an offense that I think there's still a lot left out there. There's a lot of meat on the bone to get better and to create a better version of what this offense can be and likely needs to be, especially if the bullpen, you know, I've been talking about how the possibilities of fixing it for the playoffs, but especially if this bullpen does not get fixed. So the solution to that, the solution, if you have a leaky bullpen and they're, you know, hey, as far as personnel, you know, in terms of who you have, Roki Sasaki still coming, so we'll see how that works. Maybe that's the magical ointment for this team. We'll see how that goes. I mean, typically speaking, there's never just like a magical answer to that, like just one guy, especially if it's Roki Sasaki, who has such limited experience. Maybe that happened. I mean, it's happened before. Typically speaking, it doesn't. But maybe he's that magical ointment that you just say, you know what, screw it. If it's the 9th inning, we have a lead. I don't care what the matchups are. Roki, go in and get the last 3 outs. Maybe that happens. Okay, but But then again, nobody can know if that's going to happen. There's not enough time to create a track record to trust that type of situation. So that's a scary proposition there. But maybe that does happen, maybe it doesn't. But I say that to say, I think at this point you just have to just kind of think, okay, well, the bullpen's going to give up 2, maybe 3 runs. So we don't want to play this game to have a 2 or 3 run lead. We want to play this game to have a 6-run lead, right? Let's not play to score 1 run in the second. Let's play the strategy to score 4 or 5 runs, because a 3 or 4 run lead, handing this thing over to the bullpen, has not been reliable. Again, that's easier said than done. That's living in a fantasy world. I understand that, but that's kind of, that's where you're at right now. So we have an absolutely great crowd logged in. We mentioned Craig Osterberg in his earlier comment. 808 Shiza, I'm officially done with Scott this season. Craig Osterberg, 10 blown saves for Tanner Scott. Yeah, and so what do you do with him? That's the question. If you're going to have him on the roster, you have to be used, otherwise you're wasting a roster spot. And if he has to be used, then it needs to be in low leverage. And I'm of the opinion Dave Roberts set him up for a low leverage outing last night. The way that he mapped it after Ben Rortvedt hit the home run, it just did not work out that way because you gave up 3 runs in front of him. Hey, 808 Shiza couldn't even hold the lead after giving up the sac fly. He looks absolutely clueless on the season. Relievers are supposed to have nerves of steel. Yeah, and I've said this many times about Tanner Scott. His press conferences, they just wear me out. For the coach side of me, it's like nails on chalkboard. I just want to walk up to the dude and go, get over it, man. It happened. Move on. Move to the next pitch. And quit. I mean, just the body language, just the look on his face, just the woe is me aspect of his presentation. Not his words necessarily, but his presentation just has such a defeatist look to me as a coach and as a competitor. I just look at him and I just want to look at that and go, that's pitiful, man. Clean that crap up. I mean, that body language there is literally why you haven't been able to climb this hump, because it's just a woe is me, feel sorry for myself type. Again, presentation, and the presentation he needs to be giving off is, hey, it's next pitch. Hey, it's next game. I'm a great pitcher. I know I can get guys out. And that's exactly what's going to happen next time I pitch. So give me the damn ball. Let's go. That's the presentation he needs to be giving off. That's not the presentation I get when I watch him talk in post game. So that's like nails on a chalkboard for me. So, yes, you're exactly right, Craig. Relievers are supposed to have nerves of steel. Eric Flores, why don't they have a guy warming up when Scott goes in? Who would it be? So, I mean, that goes back to I'm not disagreeing with you, Eric. That goes back to the argument that I made, 10 minutes ago or so. If not Tanner Scott, then who? Blake Trinan? Kirby Yates? They'd already pitched Jack Dreyer. Robo's that guy that goes multiple innings. You're right. I mean, so who would it be? The only other thing I could have thought of would have been maybe an Anthony Bonda. But then again, at that point, is Anthony Bonda a fireman? He has been in the past, but that would be the only a comment I could have to that would be who would it be at that point? So why not have these guys have a 3-batter minimum? That would be a good question. I guess my question, I would have to answer that question with a question back. What would a 3-batter minimum, what would that accomplish? Do we have any stats as far as each guy in the first 3 batters, that kind of thing? Hey, Leon says, great manager. He is not. We'll go ahead and disagree on that. I'll push back on that. Not only is Dave Roberts a great manager, he's a Hall of Fame manager. He's managed to win 40% of the last 5 World Series. And remember, there is a beginning and a middle and an end to every season. There were points last year to where Dodgers fans were making the same comments. Matter of fact, I would think Dodgers fans probably had less confidence this time last year than they do this time this year. So let the season finish. Even if the Dodgers don't win it this year, that's still 2 out of the last 6. That's pretty darn good. Matter of fact, it's Hall of Fame good. So I'll go ahead and push back that Dave Roberts criticize away the individual moves, but I'm going to go ahead and say that he is a great manager. Doesn't matter how good starting pitchers are. If bullpen gives away, no doubt. That's absolutely correct, Craig. If you don't solve that solution, you have three choices. You either have your starters go 9 innings, okay, or that's one choice, or you score 7 or 8 runs and just make it to where the bullpen, there's no way they can blow that because you have a 7-run lead by the time they get in there. Or the third choice is you lose. Those are your 3 choices. So we don't like the third choice. So hopefully one of the first 2 choices is what happens down the stretch. Dave gave so many chances to Tanner Scott and Michael Conforto. Enough is enough. I cannot push back against that. Again, that's the individual decision aspect of it. If you want to criticize individual decisions, I have 0 issues with that. Dave S. says Roberts also had the most talent and a limited payroll, and so have all the other Hall of Fame managers that he has either outperformed and or performed on par with. That's not a criticism of him. That's a given. All managers that win at a high level have talent like that. It's what you do with that talent, and I will say Dave has taken that talent that you're talking about, just like all the other Hall of Fame managers have done, and he's parlayed it into winning 2 out of the last 5 World Series. So that's not a criticism. That's a given that to win at the level that Dave Roberts has, you're going to have that type of talent. Hey, BW, I'll start blaming Roberts when we see his pitching rotations come Tuesday in the playoffs. We all knew he would be playing for the postseason and not as many wins as possible. That's a good point, but I sure would like to have home field advantage. And the pushback I would have there, BW, the faster you win the division, the easier it is to set up your rotation for that 3-game series, and that is such a huge deal. And then also, you don't want to lose home field advantage, no doubt. Dave S. and for Andrew Freedom did not address the bullpen issues at the trading deadline was a bonehead move. Dave, nobody's bitched and moaned about that more than I have. I totally agree with you. I have just whined and moaned and complained that I wanted Johan Duran or Griffin Jacks or even Mason Miller, even though the Padres gave away probably way too much for him. Time will tell. I am always of the opinion if you can go get an elite guy at the major league level, how can you not say that you'd rather have that guy than anybody, no matter how good they are at the high A level? Major leaguer versus a high A guy. I'll always take the major leaguer. I totally agree with you, Dave S. Nobody has complained about that more than I have. And to this point, to be honest with you, Dave, as great as Andrew Friedman is, we have been proven right in that situation to this point. But again, let's hope that turns around. Brock Stewart was not the answer. You can go back to the receipts of the shows that we initially went back. Anybody on Dodgers Dogs can tell you I totally agree with that. Terry Hazama, DFA Tanner Scott, even if you owe him money. Okay, so let's not use that type of language. I'm going to go ahead and remove that comment. We don't use that kind of language, and we don't throw guys. Hey, if you want to criticize like we have, fine, but we do not throw guys under the bus, and we don't call names like that. So, hey, if you want to reword that and make that a little bit more respectful, we like both sides of the argument, but it has to be in that way. Craig Kimbrell blew 2 games for the Phillies in the 2023 NLCS, Game 3 and Game 4 of the NLCS, with Game 3 being a significant lead. They also didn't do much at the deadline either. So, see, there's the level side of things. We just see the side of things as a Dodgers fan. Dave should be playing mostly starting pitchers in the postseason. I agree with the piggyback system. Ohtani with Sheehan, Snell with Kershaw, Yamamoto with Vesia, Bonda, Dreyer. Only way to win the World Series this year, and that's exactly what will happen. That's the plan moving forward. Continue to play good offense. Your starters need to continue to pitch well. Then use the starters in the bullpen with the piggyback system. Create such a limited amount of innings for the actual bullpen guys that you're only using the Alex Vesias and the Bondas and the Dryers, the guys that have proven to be reliable this year. That's the plan right there, and the Dodgers can easily do that. And I think if they do, they can still win the World Series, if not even be favored to do so. For the team to have such talent and so close to a World Series team, to not improve the team at the deadline was bonehead. Yeah, that goes back to what we were talking about. Roki should be the closer, says Lee, and we will see. We'll see. He's looked really good. I'm very hesitant on that. There's just no track record to say that will be good. Put him in the bullpen like Dodgers Z Showtime fans is saying and see how it works. We'll see. I mean, I'm just a wait and see on that, and I think everybody has to be that. Where's Ben Kasparius? Need more right-handed relief pitchers. They wore him out. He did not pitch well. That is from Craig. They wore him out and then didn't pitch him a whole lot, so he got the double whammy of being fatigued, but then also not only being fatigued, then kind of being rusty because he didn't throw a lot in the second half. Now you have a guy that hadn't really pitched anything high leverage in a while. So I don't think probably he's the answer for this year. So I'm just going to go ahead. I said this last show, mismanagement of Ben Kasparius this year. I am not afraid to say that. They used him too much early, which meant they couldn't use him enough in the second half. And because of that, now they don't have one of their guys with their best arsenal at the top of their game at the time of the season where it matters the most. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in the mismanagement category for Ben Kasparius. If anybody wants to disagree with that, let me know why. I would have to hear an explanation first. Again, that's not throwing anybody under the bus. That's not saying I don't think this organization or any one individual does a great job. That's just to say that's my opinion on that one in particular issue. You have a stacked farm system. Not all those guys are going to make it the Major League roster. You are preaching to the choir, Dave, in terms of trading them away. Is Yates even still in uniform? If so, he needs to return it. That goes back to, okay, we can bitch and moan about Tanner Scott, but then who do you want? Okay. I mean, who else do you want? Right then, if you don't want Tanner Scott, which most of us didn't in a high leverage situation, we've been saying that for a while, then who? Who else would it be? What's the solution? We know the complaint. We know the gripe. That's not the problem. The problem is, what is the solution at this point? Johnny Owen says, Casey, this team will not get through the first round. I think, Johnny, if you went back this time last year, I think there were a lot of Dodgers fans that were saying the exact same thing about this team. Now, you might be proven right, and then you might be proven wrong. But I'll say this, when you have the experience of the Dodgers, when you have 3 Hall of Famers, when you have a starting pitching staff that has been as dominant as they are, when you have the offensive potential that the Dodgers have and the system they can put in place to correct the bullpen, don't ever bet against that team. That's a team that knows how to win in the postseason. Go ahead and bet against them if you want, Johnny, what you're doing here, but I would guarantee you there were more Dodgers fans betting against the Dodgers this time last year than they are right now. I'm not going to be on that train. I'm going to continue to say this is a Dodgers team that not only can win the World Series, but with what they have on the roster right now, should win the World Series. I'm going to put that onus on their back, and I'm going to put those expectations in play for them. Let's hope that Al Minerva, let's hope Roki is to the rescue, no doubt. Hey, Benny Flex has been unbelievable. Yeah, that is from Craig Osterberg. Noah Ortega, imagine Yamamoto 6 innings, Sheehan 2 innings, and then Ohtani closes. Ain't going to happen, but that would be amazing. Why not? I mean, Noah, why not? I think all bets are off once you get in a playoff scenario, especially if you get a playoff scenario to where your backs are against the wall, like the bullpen game. Like if it's a 1-1 series and it's game 3, I guarantee you'll see that if those guys are available and the game's on the line. I promise you will. That's why I'm optimistic about that, because you're going to see things like that when the Dodgers are forced to. You're not going to see it until you have to see it, but I think once you have to see it, I think you will, and that's why I remain optimistic. Dodgers Z Showtime fans put Roki Sasaki, Andrew Heaney, and Emmett Sheehan to the bullpen. There you go. There's some more solutions. That's what I like about Dodgers, dog. Instead of complaints like, hey, he sucks or he sucks or he sucks, solutions. Come up with solutions. I love that talk. Dodgers Ezo Showtime fans, what a great job. What a great comment. This chat today is absolutely elite. Thank you so much for all this wonderful Dodgers talk. This is exactly how you do it right here. Voice your complaints, give your solutions, and let's come up with some ideas that all make us feel better about what the future might look like, right? ADK, I'm finally catching an episode live. Can't really comment a whole lot, but we'll listen. Thank you so much, ADK, Dave S. And if the Padres were playing any better than they are, the Dodgers would be second place. True to that. TRUDAT, exclamation point to that, Dave S. Schmooze to me. The relievers are getting consistently worse. ADK, I mean, unless they do some crazy crap like piggybacking 2 starters or unless the bullpen fixes itself, the Dodgers are headed to an early exit, but I think they will, ADK. I really do. And they will if they have to. That's kind of, you're not going to see it until they have to, but I think after they have to, you will see it from there. Hey, Vic Baños, number 34 forever. Yesterday, Kershaw apparently was ready to come. I think if he came after Ohtani, the 7th was a good fit, and I think you would see that if you had to in a playoff scenario. Hey, Eric Flores, read the room, Conforto. Yeah. Oh, Donnie boy, thank you so much for joining. I doubted the team having to piggyback starters in the postseason, but I don't see any other way out of this. Been telling you that for a month now. I've been telling you that for a month, and I totally agree with you there. Oh, Donnie boy, what an incredible chat we have going on right here. Big Baños, number 34 forever. Tanner Scott, more than a physical or mechanic thing. Yes, he has lost confidence. You can see it. That's kind of what I'm saying about his post-game conferences. They're just not. They're not inspiring confidence in me. Last night's game was fun until it wasn't. This isn't fun for the fans, no doubt, Chuck. I totally agree with you there. There's no doubt about that. But what I can tell you is the Dodgers are still in first place. There's still an exciting future ahead. They're still, I've given you the solutions. They aren't just tinfoil hats. They are solutions I think the Dodgers will turn to. And I think they are solutions that have a much better chance at being successful than not. So that's the way I am going to be excited about looking towards the future. Hey, Noah Ortega, Dave pulled Bruzdar after walking 2 batters and facing the minimum in Game 5 of the World Series, so I'm sure that he'll pull Scott immediately if he even uses Scott. We'll see even if Tanner Scott even makes the roster. I think if you're Andrew Friedman, you might have an obligation just to leave him and Kirby Yates off the roster just all in all and choose somebody else. So the bullpen is the reason why we haven't won 100 games and are on our way to a 3rd seed. I can't disagree with that, Johnny Owen. Noah Ortega, if we leave Tanner Scott on the postseason roster, I'm certain he will agree that it was the best decision given all opportunities he was given. Leave him off the roster. That's you might have to do that. Chuck Huddleston, I think it'll be different starting next Tuesday. If it isn't, I'll be a much harder judge. There you go. Chuck Huddleston, standing ovation. Elite. This is why Dodgers Dawgs is elite right here. That is just simply a fantastic comment. Wait to see how urgent the Dodgers get next Tuesday with the bullpen in terms of the guys that they use, the length that they give them, the rope that they give him. That's absolutely awesome, Chuck. That is an elite comment right there. Doc might be a little overconfident and may end up second in the division if he keeps tinkering. Can't disagree with that. That's another lead comment there. You have to have enough sense of urgency to make sure you win the division, right? You definitely have to do that. B.L. Boyd said Sunday night that Roberts experimenting with Trinan may have cost us the division. 100% knew if San Diego won out, we would not go 3-3. Good thing is San Diego has not gone on any. If they have gone on any, it's been not very many streaks like they would have to go to finish this season. And again, don't doubt the Dodgers. Every time you've wanted to count the Dodgers out and it seemed like, oh, this team sucks or getting ready to just kind of lose it for the last time, they rear up and they have a good stretch. So I think that the Mariners, too, being as hot as they are right now, I think they'll bring out a good version of this Dodgers team. And again, remember, the Dodgers were winning 4-0 going into the bottom of the 7th inning last night. They just got through beating the Giants 3 out of 4 games. They have dominated the Padres this year. There's no reason to think the Dodgers aren't going to win 2 out of the last 5 games coming down the stretch here. And there's no reason to believe the Padres are going to win out. So I think that's a little bit too doomsday for me, at least. So Neil Kasamoto says, why didn't they bring up Brock and Roki yesterday? The Oklahoma City season ended last week. Good question. I would have brought up Roki Sasaki as soon as they could. Brock Stewart, I'm not nearly as excited about, although he does have a track record, and hey, hopefully that situation works out. Dreyer should have finished the 7th and Vesia the 9th. I can't disagree with that, but I think what Dave wanted right there was a guy that could miss some bats. Edgardo Henriquez definitely can do that. It just simply did not happen. They should have tested Roki last night also, says Sev 2121. That's not a bad idea there. If you're going to experiment, if you're going to use guys that haven't performed, why not a new guy that is hot right now, which would be the Roki Sasaki. I don't understand why Edman wasn't in center field yesterday. Pages misplayed that double over his head. Neil, maybe a little bit. Yeah, he did misplay it, but I still don't think he would have caught it. I think that was a little bit overdone on the broadcast. I mean, that was pretty much upside the wall. That's that play again I've been telling you about all year. That one hit right at you. That's the one I've been telling you that Pages is never going to be good at because he's never played center field. So I kind of agree with you, but I don't agree with you to the extent that I really actually think even if he would have played that ball well, that he would have caught it. I just don't think that. Hey, but I do think I agree with you that Edman should be in center field. Racy Auto Parts, Tanner Scott needs to change his walk-up song to the funeral march. Oh, that's funny, Racy. That's sad and funny at the same time. Tanner Scott's walk-up music should be Taps. That's a good one too, Johnny. That's a very good one. At this point, Lucy Chin, thank you so much for joining. At this point, I'd rather see Kyle Hurt than Ben Kasparius than Trinan and Scott. Can't disagree with you there, no doubt about that. Why not Will Klein? He looked good. But again, if you throw Will Klein out there, I can't tell you how many complaints I've had about him. I got pushed back at every turn of people wanting Will Klein even back on the roster. So he comes out and he looks good a time or two. Now all of a sudden we want him. It's that whack-a-mole, and as soon as we think that, then Will Klein will go out and give up 3 runs. Again, that goes back to being that whack-a-mole part of the way the bullpen has been. That double was smoked. I agree, Eric. I just, even if Andy makes a good play on, I just don't think he catches that. Johnny Owen, Andy Pages' nickname should be Cement Head because, yeah, he does do some things sometimes that are more than interesting. So, hey, that's all the time I got for today. What a wonderful crowd we had on Dodgers Dogs as part of the Dodgers Daily Network. Cannot thank you, Dodgers Dogs, enough for all your wonderful support. So until next time, which might be tonight with Austin, we'll see. We may do a pregame tonight. If not, tomorrow will be with Mark Watkins. Thank you so much for tuning in, and as always, it's a great day to be a Dodger.